This meeting is being recorded.
Sorry, I'm getting a call right now.
If we can all mute, we can all mute.
Hi, everyone. I'm here. Sorry.
Hi, Megan.
Hi. Sorry, I had a meeting that went over.
Well, that's okay. It took Jim too long to get here too.
And Jim, it looks like Shay is frozen.
Sorry, was that for me?
I was just gonna say, it looks like Shay's frozen, so we may need your moving the meeting along and getting it started.
I better open the agenda. Hang on. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Certification, Affordable Housing Subcommittee agenda. Is Shay back? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The Affordable Housing Subcommittee for the Commission on Equitable Housing and Development has now commenced. It's January 25th at 4 p.m. This meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19 to allow for social distancing and to protect public health. As we continue our efforts of meeting remotely, we ask all commissioners and guests to mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone. Also, prior to speaking, please announce who you are to identify yourself. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We ask that you only use the chat function to request to speak or to announce that you are leaving the meeting so we can track quorum. Also, in order to comply with state open meeting laws, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio, not using the chat function. So roll call, Shay was with us. I'm sure she's trying to get back on. I'll text her. Jim Toffel, I'm here. Olga Flores. Okay, Olga's out. Marianne Beerling.
I'm here.
Maggie Amato Tejas.
I'm here.
Corin Manning.
Present.
Marcos Ismail.
I'm here.
Marcos Betty Viegas.
Here.
Okay, and then other attendees, we got Megan Headings.
Here.
Joe Adino. Doesn't look like he's with us today. David Wall. Doesn't look like he's with us. Sally Schwinn is not here, or Jason Heisey. Are any of these guys in the waiting room?
No, but I'll keep an eye on it. I know David Wool said he delayed today. And then Sally is in a council meeting up in Globe, so she won't be attending.
Okay. All right.
And my name Hanson Fatherby.
Hi, Hanson. How are you?
Hi.
So second agenda item is the call to audience. This is the time when any member of the public may address the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. Due to time constraints, the total time allocated for this is 15 minutes, and individuals are allowed up to 3 minutes each. So Hanson, did you want to say anything?
Just glad for the invitation to be here. I'm hoping I'll learn something, and I probably will, and hope I can do something to help.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'd like to just say one thing. Am I allowed to say something in the call to audience or not?
That's a good question.
It's going to be quick.
Yeah, I don't have an answer, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so Joanna Carr reached out today. She has a request from Senator Mark Kelly's office, and he is looking for feedback from the development community on what can be done at a federal level to improve the LIHTC program and to develop, what new federal policy initiatives can be complete. So he asked for, I guess I'm going to be attending, as well as Brian Swanton and Sally Schwinn from Gorman and Companies are going to attend. But I just would like to put it out to this group. And if any of you have thoughts or feedback on the LIHTC program, let me know. I mean, there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first of which was the original Build Back Better plan that did not get passed, included an affordable housing tax credit. It was David Wall's in the waiting area. It was a 5-year 35% tax credit that would stack on the 4% tax credit. And if something like that could happen, I think all of the 4% tax credits would start getting used. For the most part, a lot of them do not get used right now because projects just don't pencil out. But if there was something like that in place, that would really help. The second thing that I could think of is that I think really affects tax credit pricing is the CRA requirements, the Community Reinvestment Act. And those requirements change from year to year. But there are probably some things that could happen at the federal level to strengthen the CRA requirements, and that would have a direct impact on how the tax credits are purchased. So if any of you have feedback, I don't know when the meeting is yet. This just came out. They're trying to set it up. It'll probably be sometime.
Is it a public meeting?
No, it's just going to be us. But if any of you had feedback, call me or text or email me or whatever. And because I'd like to have as good of thoughts on this thing as I can. So.
Is there time to add this as an agenda meeting for the next meeting or no? Probably not. No,
that's why I was doing the call to audience. So you guys have my contact information. Just let me know if you have thoughts or suggestions.
Cool. And so Jim stepped in for you, Shay, if you don't mind taking back over, so we can move on to the agenda. We're on number 3 with our guest speaker.
Can you all, I'm on my phone now, so it's a little bit more difficult. So Jim, if I need you to step back in, could you be on standby? Oh. Can you hear me, Jim? Or can you all hear me?
Yes. Yeah, no problem, Shay.
I'm having technical difficulties today. So if I need you to, if I just go blank, just please step in and take over where I stepped out. Okay, thanks. Did you go through the call to the order or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just went through items 1 and 2, so we're on agenda item 3.
Okay, great. So we have a guest today, Krista Schwartz. Is she on?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. So I appreciate this opportunity to be here today to talk about affordable housing. My name is Krista Schwartz, and I'm the Single Family Housing Director at FSL. FSL, you may also know of us as the Foundation for Senior Living. And Sarah is going to help me out today and be my technical support here and help me advance through my slides that I have prepared. Thank you, Sarah. So I'd like to start with a little bit of background about FSL and who we are. So like I said, we're a nonprofit organization. We have been around since 1974. We were established by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Phoenix, and our mission is to provide home and community-based services and develop energy efficient, affordable housing. So actually, we can go to the next slide where I can talk a little bit more about the programs and services that we offer. So yes, so although we've been around since 1974 and our name is Foundation for Senior Living, not all of our programs serve seniors. That was the original intent of the organization. But these days, basically, we have about 30 plus programs and services that fall into 4 different buckets, if you will. A safe home, and that's going to be the majority of my presentation today, is talking about our affordable housing programs. but we also offer nutritious meals, health and wellness programs, and caregiver support. Next slide. So as far as our affordable housing goes, you can see from this map that we do have projects across the entire state. So those projects include both multifamily rental projects and also single family homes. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the single family program. That's obviously my area of expertise as the single family housing director at FSL. But we also offer home improvements programs. We have that home improvements division at FSL. And in fact, we're doing some work in Tucson right now related to weatherization. That department also offers accessibility modifications and emergency home repairs to ensure that individuals can age in place safely in their own homes. All right, next slide. So you may recognize this building. This is the Marist, and this is a project, a multifamily rental project that we are very proud of. And we couldn't have done it, of course, without our partners in Tucson. So Corky Poster and his team at PMM were the architects for the project. And then, of course, Tofel Dent was the contractor. And so this is just a wonderful example of one of the many affordable rentals that we have across the state. The majority of the properties are restricted to older adults and adults with disabilities. And there are also income restrictions that apply. So, individuals have to have household incomes below like 50 or 60% of the area median income in order to be eligible to rent. And we do offer 1 and 2 bedroom units as well as studios, and all of the utilities are included in the rent. All right, next slide. So in terms of our single family home ownership department, that really started around 2008. And some of you may be familiar with NSP, or the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. So prior to that timeline, FSL didn't do any single family detached or home ownership projects. But because of that federal funding, FSL made the decision to break into that market. And we had a contract with the city of Phoenix to acquire, rehab, and resell 160 bank-owned homes under the NSP program. That went on for about, 8 years. And then after that, there was still some program income available through the program. And so the city of Phoenix made the decision to focus the money that was left onto a specific neighborhood in Phoenix off of 24th Street and Broadway. It was called the South Phoenix Village infill. And under that program, we built 126 new homes. It was about a 5-year project, and that wrapped up. Our last sale was March of 2021. So it's been almost 2 years since we wrapped that project up. It's important to note, though, with this project, actually with both of those projects, both the NSP acquisition rehab program and also the new home project, that those programs allowed incomes up to 120% of the area median income. So things, are very different once you start talking about 80% AMI programs. And I'll get into a little bit more detail in the next several slides with a case study of kind of where we're going now with our program. So Sarah, we can go ahead to the next one. So this is the project we're working on right now. It is the Casa del Sol subdivision in Wickenburg. We acquired a 3-acre parcel of land from the Wickenburg Area Habitat for Humanity. They had done all of the platting. And so when we acquired the land, it was already platted for 16 lots total. And the Habitat for Humanity has an interest in building on 4 of those lots. So they have an option agreement with us, and FSL is committed to building at least 12 units. The plans will range from about 1,200 to 1,600 square feet. We've got 3 different plans, and they are 3 to 5 bedroom floor plans. All of them will be energy efficient. And that was the same case with our NSP and our South Phoenix Village project as well. We had very low HERS scores, so like in the 40s for those, so very, very energy efficient. On this one, we are looking at going after the National Green Building Standard gold level. And that was primarily because of our funding source. And I'll talk about that on the next couple of slides. But the other thing that we incorporate in all of our projects is universal design features. So for example, all of our plans are single story. They've got 0-step entries, wider interior doors than you would typically see in new construction, and lever style door hardware and plumbing fixtures. And, we think that's important, not just, for somebody that might have some physical limitations, but it really, comes into play for everyone, just moving furniture around. It's really handy to have those wider door openings. So the funding, so this is really where it all starts with affordable housing, right? I mean, we can't do anything without having the proper funding in place for these projects. And so for this particular project, it started with a lot loan through Arizona Bank and Trust. The next thing we did is we applied for AHP funding through the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco. And then we also applied for home funds through Maricopa County. And Maricopa County also had some ARPA funds available. So we were very fortunate to receive ARPA funds for the project. And then out in Wickenburg, the Wellick Foundation is very committed to supporting the community. So we were grateful for their support. That really helped us on the front end with some of our fees for engineering and plan review. And then most recently, PNC Foundation also stepped up to provide a little bit of additional funding. And then we are working with Home Matters. They're a nonprofit organization in Arizona, and we have a construction loan pending with them, and they offer very low interest rates. So again, that's really important to make projects like this work. Next slide. So timeline also, tends to be a little bit longer for affordable housing projects when you compare that to market rate projects. So we acquired the land just under 2 years ago. Because we're receiving home funds from Maricopa County, we did have to go through the HUD environmental assessment process and the cultural resources survey. So that was about a 4-month process for that. We got our civil plans approved, went through Planning and Zoning Commission, got the standard plans approved, utility approvals, so all of this is typical in the development project, but where we're stopped right now is we're kind of on that bid phase. So we did issue some advertisements through the Wickenburg Sun and Capital Times seeking contractors. We very much wanted to get some local contractors interested in this project. And unfortunately, we didn't receive a single response to our advertisement in June. So we did a little bit more outreach over the fall and had about 6 contractors that seemed very interested in the project. Unfortunately, we did get a couple of them drop out. We do have a couple of contractors that we're talking to right now, but our bids are a little bit higher than we anticipated. So we are rebidding a portion of the project right now. It was really the infrastructure phase where the numbers were way off. And the contractors that applied, they were more used to doing new homes on developed lots. So we're hoping that we get some better numbers here within the next month or so, so that we can move forward and get things going with our construction loan, get that all finalized, and hopefully break ground sometime this spring. And then the last 3 bullet points, I just want to point out too, when we're doing affordable housing, it's very important that the buyers of the homes are educated and aware of what they're getting into. So a homebuyer education class and one-on-one counseling is a requirement for all of our programs. And then the public report process through the Arizona Department of Real Estate is also something we have to tackle anytime we're doing 6 or more lots within one project. So if all goes well, hopefully we will be accepting contracts shortly after we break ground. So hopefully summer of this year, we'll be able to accept contracts. All right. So the home buyer requirements. I talked a little bit about our Affordable Housing Program, AHP grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco. And that was really the driver for the home buyer requirements, because their program requires all of the bullet points that you see here. The primary one, like I mentioned, is that we're now having to sell to households earning less than 80% of the area median income as opposed to 120%, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So what we try to do is just layer on as many down payment and closing cost assistance programs as we can to provide more funding. So in this case, we do have a minimum of $40,000 in assistance for all home buyers, and that's $25,000 per lot coming from AHP, and then another $15,000 from the Maricopa County ARPA funds. Buyers will have to come up with a minimum of $1,000 of their own funds, and then they do need to qualify for a mortgage. So that's another area where it gets a little bit tricky. On the front end, so their mortgage payment cannot exceed 33% of their gross monthly income. And then on what we call the back end, their total debt, if you include their housing payment and all of their other debts, can't exceed 43% of their gross monthly income. All right, next slide. So this is the chart, the HUD chart for Maricopa County. So these are the numbers that we're following. This is current as of today. HUD usually does release the new numbers in April. So we do expect these numbers to go up quite a bit. I think last year we saw about a 12% increase just going from 2021 to 2022. So we're expecting something kind of along those lines also this year. But for right now, these are the maximum income levels that buyers, their household income would have to be at in order for them to qualify. If they're even $1 over that 80% AMI threshold, unfortunately, they wouldn't be eligible for this project. And then the bottom section of the chart outlines the lien position for the down payment assistance that the buyers would get. So for example, the first mortgage, that would be the buyer's choice. They can go with any bank of their choice. We do have quite a few banks that offer those CRA programs that Jim made reference to, Community Reinvestment Act. So a lot of banks will put together specific products for either low to moderate income census tracts or majority minority census tracts, and offer additional grant funds in the process, or potentially lower interest rates. The Maricopa County Home Funds that I mentioned would be in second position. Now I've got an asterisk next to that one because we're trying to set those funds aside for households earning less than 65% AMI. That was, again, part of the Federal Home Loan Bank and AHP scoring process, is that we agreed to set aside 3 lots in that range. But what we're finding is that now all of a sudden the numbers aren't working. And I have another slide where I'll go into a little bit more detail, but interest rates really have really messed with our project. So when interest rates were at 3%, it looked like we could make this work with all of these layers of down payment assistance and where we thought the appraisals would come in. But unfortunately, interest rates have gone up and home values have also gone up. And so our home prices, are always going to be based on appraised value. We're never going to sell for less than appraised value, because the only thing that would do would be to bring down values in the neighborhood, and we never want to do that. So we're right now in a process of kind of evaluating our options. So, but this is normally, this would be like a really great structure with this many layers of down payment assistance. And then even below that 4th line, like I said, there could potentially be even a 5th layer of assistance with some of the lenders that offered their own grant payments, as long as they're willing to go into 5th position on the lien. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is a lot of information to absorb here. But basically the main takeaway is that I'm just trying to kind of show you that unfortunately the HUD AMI charts do favor larger households when we are talking about home ownership programs. So everything you see there on the left, those are actual applicants that we have for our Casa del Sol project in Wickenburg. There's a column for the number of people in the household, the monthly income that they're reporting. So from that, I factored, what is 33% of their gross monthly income, because that would be the maximum that they could spend on a mortgage. And then the next column over, deducted, just a guesstimate here, but deducted $150 to cover HOA taxes and insurance. And then the next two columns, which are colored, are just highlighting, what the mortgage amount would be that they would qualify for. So the first column is 6%, and then the second one is at 3.5%. So the reason I did that 3.5% column is because we were hoping that some of the buyers would qualify for a USDA mortgage. Because Wickenburg is considered a rural area, that is one option. I am hearing there's a lot of red tape with those loans, but if the buyers do qualify, they can definitely get a lower interest rate. So this is a little bit outdated. I think it might be up to about 4% right now, but as of September, they were at 3.5% when, the market rate at that time was more like 6.5 or 7. And then from there, I did my color coding, and I mean, you can see just all of the red, like clearly, unless these households have their own down payment source, or unless they bring their income up, it's just nearly impossible for them to qualify for a mortgage with our appraised values at 400,000 plus. And when I get to the last slide, you'll see that, our plans are very basic, but yet the appraised values, they're still coming in that high. And so it's, a matter of how do we bridge this gap between what the buyers can qualify for and what the appraisals are coming in at. So, yeah, and unfortunately also the other thing in Wickenburg too, is that we're finding that most of the people that are expressing an interest are 1- and 2-person households. We're not seeing as many of the larger households, but yeah, and that annual income column, I mean, you can see, a household really needs almost 70,000 or more just to qualify for the mortgage amount. And, again, they've got to be a 4-person household or larger in order to not also exceed that 80% AMI threshold. So it's a very thin kind of band that we're working in. And sometimes it feels like just trying to put puzzle pieces together, trying to make all of this work. But next slide. All right, and yeah, this is my my final slide, and I've touched on some of the challenges that we have experienced over the last year or so. Right now, what we're seeing is that construction costs are outpacing appraisals. Appraisals are outpacing incomes. The increased mortgage rates are hurting housing affordability, and then that HUD AMI chart is favoring larger households. In terms of solutions and how cities can potentially assist nonprofit developers, is to kind of bridge that gap on both sides. So if there's any way to bridge the gap for the developer, that's one thing that we experienced with our City of Phoenix NSP project. The city provided 0% interest construction loans, and that was very helpful. We also had a development gap on that project of about 20, it varied, but 20 to 30,000 in some cases per home. And the city was able to use NSP funds to help bridge the development gap. They also provided technical assistance. So, again, we had issues with, all the HUD environmental issues, but they basically delivered a clean site to us. So we didn't have to worry about any archaeological monitoring. They already had that work done. When it came to things like burrowing owl surveys that were also required as part of that process, that was something that they handled on their end. And any way we can bridge the gap for the buyer, again, is going to be very helpful. So a stacking of all those down payment assistance programs usually works, but this market is challenging and a little bit different from what we've worked with in the past. Obviously the community land trust model is something that looks very appealing right now, because again, then the buyer's only having to qualify for a mortgage on the house itself, and then they have that smaller lease payment. Lower property taxes. So it's my understanding with the community land trust that helps to lower property taxes. But another thing that we helped to educate buyers on in Phoenix was the fact that, at least through Maricopa County, they could put a freeze on their taxes if they were over a certain age threshold and below a certain income threshold. And then finally, those no PMI loan products. So for example, one of the banks right now that we have a flyer for, so it's MidFirst Bank. They have a $15,000 grant. It's a conventional loan, no PMI. And again, it's for projects that are either in an 80% AMI census tract or majority minority census tract, or if the buyer earns less than 80% of the area median income. And then finally, just designing and building the right product. And sometimes this takes a little bit of back and forth. So right now we're kind of value engineering what we've got here to see if we can get our construction costs down a little bit lower. But we're focused on always building 3-bedroom homes or more because, obviously we want to meet the needs of those larger households that are more likely to qualify. We also want to make the most efficient use of space, and I'm a registered architect also, and I hate to just design a box. And I know that plan on the left is very boxy, but again, in keeping our construction costs down, the fewer corners you have, it's going to make a difference. Also, just the dimensions, 32 feet across by 48 feet deep, just keeping those, that modular effect going and keeping it as simple as possible. And in affordable materials. So, right now we're looking at standard 2x4 construction using open cell spray foam insulation to make it very energy efficient. But, now we're starting to have conversations of like, is there potentially anything else we can do? I mean, there's talk of 3D printing. I don't know that the technology is quite, as advanced as we need it to be at this point in time, but these are the types of conversations that are kind of happening at our organization about steps that we can take to make the homes as affordable as possible. And that is it for my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Jim. I think Shay is on mute.
Okay. Thanks. Krista, thank you. I think that was a really good presentation. I learned a few things. I got a couple of quick questions. So first of all, if there's anything I can do to help you guys, obviously I can't build it, but if I can help you guys in any way, let me know. Referrals or whatnot. Did you look at the rent to own model at all, and what were your thoughts on that? And then second question is, what happens when the people who move in sell? If they're there for 5 years and there's a life event, they need to move after 5 years. How does the affordability stay on the place, or does it?
Okay, yeah, I'll start with the second part. So the down payment assistance, they can have different forgivability periods just depending on the source. So for example, the Federal Home Loan Bank, the AHP funding, that goes away, it's forgiven after 5 years. The home funds and the ARPA funds are forgiven after 15 years. So if the home buyer stays in the home that amount of time, basically those liens go away. But if they sell at any point prior to that, they would have to pay that back. So when we were working under City of Phoenix and NSP guidelines, they had, they would forgive, let's see, in the first 5 years, they would not forgive anything. But then and that was 15,000 in down payment assistance. They would forgive an additional $1,000 each year. So in year 6, they'd forgive 6,000, year 7, etc. So, and in fact, a lot of those NSP buyers did end up selling and taking advantage of the really great market. So, I mean, they walked away with a lot of equity, but they also paid those loans back to the city of Phoenix. And then, yeah, in terms of the rent to own. So yeah, we have had those conversations. I mean, I will say that I'm passionate about home ownership. I just think, you know, the more people we can get into home ownership, the better, because in the long run, they're going to be better off. We see, you know, what's happening in the rental market right now with rent increases that are just, you know, astronomical. I mean, look at all the seniors who are being evicted because they can't afford these rent increases. It's not keeping up, you know, with their fixed income. So, you know, just as a general philosophy, you know, we favor homeownership for this particular department, for the single family department, but you know, that's not to say that we won't look at rent to own options in the future.
Betty, you want to go?
Yeah, first, thank you. I really appreciate that you're out there trying to produce homeownership opportunities. I know that it's a tough time right now for it, though. I'm wondering, do any of your sources allow for buying down the rate?
So a permanent buy down, which basically is just, you know, paying points. I mean, that would be allowable. I know a lot of mortgage brokers right now are talking about 2-1 buy downs, where it's, you know, a full 2 percentage points lower in the first year and then 1 percentage point lower in the second year, and then it, you know, resets in the third year. The problem with that is that you know, we're trying to create sustainable homeowners.
Yeah.
So we don't want to qualify them today only to find out that 3 years from now they get sticker shock. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, yeah, even paying the points, I mean, that comes at a cost. So it's like, where do you, you know, offset that? So yes, you can throw some money at buying down the rate, but then you're taking some money away from the down payment and closing cost component. So yeah, we've kind of looked at it, but it's tough right now.
Yeah. That's it for me. For right now, I'm thinking.
Megan?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Krista, for this. This was really helpful and great to hear how much you guys have put in time and energy to do first-time home buyer. Focus on the single family home still. You kind of walked through all of this current challenges, and it sounds like you've been doing this for a long time. So I'm curious if you have anything that's giving you hope at this moment. And then I have one other thought.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the hope is that interest rates will come down. I mean, we are starting to see that trend. If you look at where it's gone in the last month, it is coming down. I don't know that it'll go down, you know, obviously probably not back to, you know, the historic lows that we saw 2 years ago. But even if we could maybe get in the 4.5%, 5% range, it's definitely going to make a difference. And then the other thing is too, I think I think we're starting to see more contractor interest. I don't know, it was kind of bad timing. After I said, you know, we only got a couple of contractors actually respond. It was also kind of around the holidays, so that might have played into it as well. But I think we're finally starting to see the end of this pandemic frenzy of everybody, you know, remodeling their kitchen and just, you know, the contractors being very selective about the projects they take. I do have hope that with this kind of rebid process that we're going through right now, that we are going to get more interest and better numbers.
Great, thank you. And then my last comment is, you may already be familiar with them, but if you're not, RCAC, I know, is doing the USDA loans and looking for other agencies. So I would connect with them if you haven't yet.
Okay, thank you.
Megan?
Sarah. Call me Megan.
Sorry, Sarah.
It's okay. You can call me Megan Saracen, and it's my evil, persona. So, my question is kind of about the typology, and you mentioned because larger families are better qualified under the AM, et cetera. Up in Colorado, and knowing that oftentimes the people who want to buy right now are like those of us who are single or have a partner, maybe are at the 100% AMI. Have you looked at doing any kind of attached home models or like townhomes? And then also, you looked into the potential of sort of condo ownership models as well. I know in Summit County, we have a lot of sort of condo style ownership units, which did allow a lot of single people to kind of get into the ownership market and build up a little bit of equity in these, restricted or shared equity models. But then that gave them the ability to kind of go into the market from there for a home or build a family to then qualify for the larger homes. So have you kind of looked at any of that?
Yes. So in fact, we do have some land in Mesa, and we have an 11-unit townhouse project all designed, and we could pull a permit today if we wanted to, but the struggle with that project again was just kind of finding the funding for that one. So we weren't able to get anywhere with the city of Mesa in terms of home funds. We just weren't able to put together the same layers of assistance with that particular project. So that one is still an option. I will point out that we have the land listed for sale. So that's not, that because the values have gone up, we've considered, well, maybe we just sell it because it would be a market rate project for us at this point. Maybe it's better that we sell the land and reinvest those proceeds into something that's more affordable. But we do have that as kind of a potential project if we can line up some funding and if, some of the market conditions that I described start to cooperate with us.
So I'm going to call myself again. So one of the challenges we have in Tucson is that our area median incomes, I'm looking at the map dashboard right now. And in general, our area median incomes in Tucson are about $10,000 less than Phoenix for a family. And our construction costs are higher. So it is difficult as projects are to make work in Phoenix, it's even tougher down here. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on, there's definitely a desire to, make these projects happen here. Is there any recommendations that you think should be made to the city of Tucson, the mayor and council, on what are actions that the city can undertake to help make those types of projects a reality down here?
Well, I think the down payment and closing cost assistance for 100% AMI buyers, or even up to 120% AMI buyers, that really makes all the difference in getting buyers qualified. Yeah, and in terms of the construction costs, again, that's, if there's any potential for bridging that development gap side of things, that definitely makes a difference as well.
Shay?
Yeah, I was wondering about which city department was it you said that they were able to issue loans? I'm curious. I don't know that Tucson and any of our departments do. So just a little more background on that.
Yeah, so it was the City of Phoenix Neighborhood Services Department. And the reason they were able to do that was because of the NSP funds. So City of Phoenix received, I think it was over $100 million in federal funding under the Housing and Economic Recovery Act, NSP. So that's how they were able to do that.
So that was from back in 2009, right? When the crash money was floating around. Okay.
Yeah.
But it basically, that funding source depleted and there's none left, or is it some type of revolving loan, or what is?
So Yeah, so it started with that acquisition rehab component, so that we did 160 homes under that. And then it, kind of evolved into the South Phoenix Village project, the 126 new homes. And then as buyers continue to sell their homes and pay back the funds, if they do sell within that 15-year affordability period, then that does go back to the city of Phoenix. I don't think they have enough right now to kind of get any major projects going, but I'm sure, yeah, they do still have some money there. What they end up doing with it in the long run, remains to be seen.
Betty?
That brings a thought to me that I know the county has some NSP program income that potentially Marcos, the count, and I don't know if the city does as well, but I know the county has funds that they're going to be putting out as for an RFP. Would the county be willing to do like a zero interest loan program rather than, just giving the money so it becomes revolving at least, even if it gets paid back?
I'm not sure. We haven't had those discussions yet with our new housing commission and county administration.
But it's a possibility.
Yeah, and but I think it is a possibility because they're county general funds. And so, there's not a lot of restrictions that would be tied to that. It would just be a matter of having the capacity to structure the loan program and set up, a loan committee that would be able to do the underwriting part of it. But
well, you do the underwriting anyway for these.
Yeah,
so
but,
I would say call Maricopa and don't reinvent the wheel.
Well, exactly. I know how these things work, and we participated in loan programs over the years.
Yeah.
With both CDBG and the economic development side, and mainly in that area. But I think that the climate right now, with our elected officials, I think I think they would be willing to support something like that. And I think it would be with this first round that we're putting out, I don't think that's going to be something that would be included. But as we move forward, hopefully the Board of Supervisors will approve another allocation for the next fiscal year's budget. And so moving forward, I think that's something that would be, it would help us maximize these resources that we have, and like you said, provide some sustainability. And I know internally we've talked about it with our staff in creating a revolving loan program, just because it would be more sustainable, I think. But the trick is, I think the underwriting moves to like a different level when you want to structure a formal loan and requires kind of a higher level, and maybe following. I don't want to say we want to be more like a traditional lender, because obviously we want to support affordable housing, and so we want to be more flexible than a traditional lender. But I think there's it's different than what we're doing when we're not structuring them as a loan. So, but yeah, I think that's a great idea for us to consider locally here.
And this is something I'm just thinking out loud here, but that you could, or we could even see if the IDAs would be able to support something like this as well, partner on a loan pool, you know?
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And, you know, they've supported, you know, small nonprofit loans in the past. So, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
And the other thing I was gonna say is, I think your data that you showed, the graphs that you showed, really, the first thing I thought of is what Jim talked about, what Jim opened with Senator Kelly. I think that's something that that maybe we can present to them, that there's some issues with, you know, the way that the income is calculated for the 2-bedroom versus the 4-bedroom, and you know, maybe that's something that that we can present to him, Jim.
Okay, if you want to send me some talking points, that would be helpful. Mary Ann, did you have something for Krista?
No, I changed, I kind of figured it out while listening, so thank you.
I have actually one last question, Krista. The $40,000 down payment assistance, does that create a taxable event for the home buyer?
No.
It does it, so it reduces the original basis, so that at time of sale, that's where it would come into play as a capital gain.
Yeah, I mean, officially it's shown as a loan on the closing statement, but it's 0% interest, 0 payments. And then, yeah, so it's only due on sale if they sell within that forgivability period, whether that's 5 years or 15.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, I just have one last thought. Sorry, I don't want to drag it on. I know Krista, I told her it wouldn't take that long to get through the presentation.
That's okay.
One of them, you had mentioned the gaps in that financing, et cetera, and people coming with down payment assistance. And another example from Colorado was the county government there provided down payment assistance to their county employees. So as long as you worked for the county, you got a 10% up to $30,000 down. For as long as you worked at the county, you never had to pay it back, and then it was forgiven in a certain time frame. And something to think about is, not saying the city should do that, even though that would be awesome, but that we can encourage other large employers in our community to potentially do that if people solve the affordable housing problem. You know, I think that's something the commission can help with, is encouraging the local businesses and reaching out to our economic initiatives department to sort of include that as something that would probably help people, as if they did have down payment assistance for getting into housing. And so that was just another gap opportunity for down payment assistance.
Okay. Hey, Shay, do you want me to keep going just because of your phone? I'm happy to.
Yeah, that would be more helpful. I just am so much slower on the phone. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, Krista, we really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is something we've been talking about getting on the agenda now for quite some time. And I really appreciate you being here. And I don't remember, can we put that presentation up on the website? Is that okay? The city
Yeah. I'll definitely share it with the commission, and then I'll talk with Krista if we can put it up, or if she's more comfortable with a different one being up, just because there is like a lot of info on there. But yeah, I'll get it out to all of you guys in email.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you. And I'll go ahead and sign out now. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 4 is an update on the manufactured housing speaker, and that's Mary Ann Bierling. Mary Ann?
Hi, everybody. I'm hiding myself because I keep coughing. I just got over COVID not too long ago, and man, it's just not moving. I mean, I'm done with it, but the after effects are amazing. So I did speak to ADOH, their manufactured housing division, and Ken would like me to call him back in February because his wife became seriously ill. And he has been working from home or with her for the last couple of months. So that's my report.
Okay, any questions for Mary Ann? I missed the last meeting, so I'm feel a little bit out of the loop here. Okay, so agenda item number 5 is a political strategy, Shay. So is this the question that we had in terms of defining an affordable housing goal for the city of Tucson at a certain point in time in terms of number of new units built, or what is, can you remind me what this is?
Yeah, we just had in our last meeting a lot of questions come up, just kind of around what our yeah, it had to do with, it started with kind of the, we're trying to set the number of affordable housing units and then trying to figure out who we need to talk to in the right order. There have been a lot of ideas that have been thrown around that we haven't followed up on regarding setting, a meeting with the mayor and their office or meeting with ADOH. And we have kind of this long list of items that we've talked about, but we haven't moved on. And we were just trying to figure out, if we really want to move some of these items forward, how do we, who do we need to talk to and when, in what order, and how do we start basically knocking these items off our list and kind of go through it, in some kind of orderly, strategic fashion.
So in terms of communication, I can tell you what my thoughts are on this. I was talking to Jay Young about this a little bit this last week about the best way to communicate with mayor and council. And I think it's a big ask of a lot of the commission members to go talk to different city council members. And I think what we're going to propose at our overall commission meeting is to have a core group of probably 2 to 3 people, probably 3 people, who will set up meetings with each council member. I don't know that we can't have a quorum. We got to make sure we don't have more than a quorum. But we'll probably have 3 members that go and have the same talking points with each member of mayor and council. Give them an opportunity to speak to us about what's important. I believe Ernesto sent out an email a couple days ago. I'm a little bit behind my email with those talking points that and the recommendations that have been made the last few meetings. And then we'll ask for volunteers if there are other commission members who want to attend a meeting with a particular person. We can bring 4 or 5 people to the meeting. I don't think that's a problem. But I think that's going to probably get everybody more comfortable. And so that's what I'd like to propose in our meeting next week. And just to recap the the items, so I can pull up the letter here. So we wanted to talk about reestablishing the housing trust fund for the city, or reinstating the housing trust fund as a source of affordable housing projects. To direct development services to review and come up with recommendations on changing the zoning code in order to encourage more affordable housing projects. We're asking mayor and council to direct staff to evaluate the potential of adding an affordable housing bond initiative on the ballot. And then the 4th item was a fast track approval process for affordable housing projects with development services. And the 5th item was the EV infrastructure reimbursements that we talked about at our last meeting. So those are the 5 formal agenda items that have gone to mayor and council. The other thought I had was we lost one commission member at our last meeting, and we're about to lose another this meeting. Joanna Carr is going to be moving up to Flagstaff. So we have two openings, and I want to make sure that we keep the commission full, and that the mayor and council's we've got thoughts and recommendations on people that can join, but I just want to make sure we keep the commission full going forward. So does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think there were some questions some people had too about, I don't know, meeting potentially with the county or having, I don't know, there's a lot of ideas that were discussed, roundtables, and then at what point, do we go to the state, and I don't know.
Megan?
Well, I think this is in line with what Shay was just saying, but now that the counties put together their Pima County's Rural Affordable Housing Commission, that's totally not the
I think
name
it's
of it. I don't believe.
regional, something regional.
We're right, it's just regional.
Regional
Yeah.
and affordable.
Pima County Regional Affordable Housing Commission.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. I should know
That
that.
might be a good opportunity, though, to have some overlap conversation. I don't know if that will, present itself. I know, there is like David, Betty, Sarah, there's overlap. So that may already be happening, but in more of a formalized way, that could be an opportunity. And then with the state, it does seem like great timing right now as Joan Service was named head of ADOH to at least, I think a number of us already have a relationship with her, but to plan to meet with her and talk about sort of the needs and articulate those more in Tucson. So maybe good timing just to do that sooner rather than later. Although I don't know when she officially starts with ADOH.
I think it's pretty soon if she hasn't started. I think she's transitioning in now.
And
I'm
a
super stoked.
clarifying, is Joanna, you said Joanna's moving to Flagstaff. I thought she was interim at the coalition. Is that still staying true? Oh, okay.
That is, yeah. So she's moving to the interim executive director of the Arizona Housing Coalition. So I haven't actually talked to Joanna since all that came down, but I'm curious, how she's doing. Who, just out of curiosity, who in this group is part of that Pima County Affordable Housing Group? So Shay, Sarah, Megan, Betty, David, Marcos.
For now,
By default, I'm there, but I'm not a.
it's a story.
So we've got like
Marcos-
70%
staff.
Yeah, Marcos is me, and then
Yeah.
I'm like him, but I am a voting member. I'm not ex officio.
Okay, so we just due to the sheer number of people that are overlapping, I think we've got pretty good. We should have good synergies.
Yeah, and one thing I was thinking, Jim, too, because like we've only had one meeting and it's still kind of getting off the ground, and it came up data and sort of all the things happening. So I think once we get that list, or whenever you have something and you as the chair and decide that you want to take something to the regional commission, we can sort of do that pass through, and it could either come from me or it could come from any of on it as well. And I think I think everybody will be saying a lot of the same things back and forth, but we made it pretty clear that commission also exists and has been doing a lot of work, so no need to like talk about it ad nauseam.
So just out of a morbid curiosity, who's the chair of that group?
Joanne DeFilippo.
Who?
Joanne DeFilippo and our own Betty Villegas is vice chair.
Okay. Oh, congratulations, Betty.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, that's good. One thing that this group I think we do need to put some thought around is establishing a goal of how do we define success for if we're making a difference or not. And I think I think one way we define success is if the recommendations we make to mayor and council get enacted. That's one measure of success. I think the other, more probably objective measure is, what do we want to see? How many affordable housing units do we want to see get created in Tucson over the next 5 or 10 year period? And I don't know that we need to haggle over that now, but maybe as an assignment for this next month is each person can come up with a number in their head and why they think that's a good number, and we can each go around and kind of present what we think the goal should be and why, and then try to come to some sort of consensus. How does that sound to everybody?
That sounds great, Jim. I actually have a question around this too. I mean, partly when we had met and discussed that affordable unit housing count, as a goal for the 5-year goal, I mean, I just was really, I had a lot of questions as to where we were at in the process. Had that information already been presented, and to whom? Where were we getting the numbers from? Just there were so many questions I had during that, during our conversation, that I didn't feel comfortable, really with any kind of final number that we had settled on. It seemed to me that was going to take more time and research to develop. So, but have those numbers been shared yet at this point with anyone?
No. So this is going back to when we were first meeting, and we went through and said, what are we doing here? And we set up our goals and our mission, and one of the goals of the commission was to establish a count of the number of units, but it was a TBD. So I think one of our 1-year goals was to get that number in place. And we're running up against, I think we're probably already past the 1-year goal, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So.
Yeah, I think it's a really great, I think it's a really great one. I mean, I was kind of a little bit disappointed that the HAS plan didn't have one, and so I just think it's great to have whether or not you achieve it, just some kind of benchmark that you can quantify, I don't know, numbers to me are just like, they're great. They don't lie, and they just say a lot without having to get political or do anything. They just kind of speak for themselves. So I think it would be really helpful to go through the exercise and get that pinned down.
So here's what I will do after this meeting is I will send an Excel spreadsheet to Ernesto of all of the affordable housing projects in the city of Tucson's pipeline that I'm aware of. And I think that's a baseline to start from, is look at what do we know that's happening and what stage is it in, and then we can use that as a baseline to develop a recommendation. Sarah?
I'll just chime in. I know that part of what the county is, they have a line item in the budget of creating a data dashboard that, I think is something that they want to try to also create these numbers so that we know how many units we have out there and all that. So we'll have a regional perspective. I know it's not happening tomorrow, when we want it. That is in the pipeline. And also the city of Tucson is procuring a new software that is going to help us with tracking a lot of this as well. It's called, and it's pretty much going to be a solution that we can use to do way more than we are now, and it will track all those things that we're struggling at. When our affordability period is going to be out, how many units are there, how many units were built a long time ago. So I think we're moving in that direction. We don't have quite yet, but we are moving in that direction.
Sounds good. Mary Ann?
Yeah, Jim, is this the same spreadsheet we looked at when we had the first conversation around all of this? And we came up with some numbers from that? Yeah. Okay.
Probably. Was it just the affordable? Did I just send the overview, or did I send the actual data?
I think you sent the actual data. I'm just
Excel.
wondering if it's the same spreadsheet or something changed, that's all.
Yeah, it was
Was
a
it like
mix.
10 projects or 12 projects? What
Yeah.
one was it?
Yeah,
It's probably the same.
okay, yeah, please resend it. I just wanted to know if anything changed.
But I
Megan?
think those only included rental, correct? Or light tech. So I
They
think
only
if we're gonna-
included the ones that I know about.
Right.
So there may be others out there that,
So I'm wondering if
it-
the list should include, you know, for instance, Land Trust has 94 permanently affordable single family ownership. And then we have 21 rentals. And so those are, should that be like a comprehensive list of what do we have, right?
I thought this is what's in the pipeline, not what exists.
Yeah, what's,
Yeah, it's what's in the pipeline.
How about a comprehensive list of like, what do we have in our community that's affordable? I don't know. Is that possible?
I mean,
I
yeah,
think
you would,
that's what,
you would
go
need
ahead.
that, know how much you're short by. I mean, knowing how many units the existing housing stock are affordable lets you know that, and then the need, comparing that to the need, then you know what the difference is. So I would think you would need all those numbers.
yeah, and it would be good to know what projects are expiring so that we can advocate for those as well. You know, and I don't think that we have a list of those. You know, I was looking at Tempe's website on housing. Has anyone looked at their Hometown for All initiative
Yes.
that they have? It's amazing. It's really, I was really inspired by it. They have a really good dashboard. I just put it up on my screen for that particular initiative. But I think that something like that would be really good in real time for us, you know, to look at, or at least, you know, take stuff from it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just shocked at what they're accomplishing, you know, and right here in the state of Arizona, that's what shocks me more, that it hasn't been challenged, you know, the way that they're getting the revenue streams for this initiative. And I'm thinking that that's something that the city of Tucson should definitely look at.
We're looking at it at the county too. We've been looking at that.
Yeah, it's really, I like I said, I was really surprised. I was gonna say something else and now I forgot. Oh well. But yeah.
Well, I was actually curious from Sarah if the software that you're talking about that's being adopted by the city, is that already coordinated with the county? Because that's what I understood from the county's presentation was they were going to be collaborating with the city on whatever was being.
No, that's not it, but their intention is to collaborate with us, but
That's what I thought.
it's all
too.
still just in this, like, this is what is, and we haven't, like, you know, opened the floodgates and started anything yet. One thing that, you know, in, I think Austin and Colorado, they actually create housing needs assessments. And so there are firms out there that do just that. And then I'm gonna send a link out. I found a website just recently that's Local Housing Solutions. And you just type in where you're at and it literally gives a full report. And I have no idea how it does it, but it tells you how many light tech units there are. It tells you mortgages by income. It tells you what multifamily units there are. And so I'll share that with you guys because I think it has a lot of interesting data in it that, you know, could assist. I don't know if it gets into the specifics of like what is needed. I haven't read the full thing. It's like a lot of pages long, but so there's certain things out, but I think that's something that if you guys really want, you know, a housing needs assessment could be something that's done. I know Anne, when I first started, I was asking why we had that, and she sort of mentioned the HAST plan was more geared at addressing affordability in general, like not wanting to focus on numbers, but on how affordability and how Tucson's are cost burdened from that larger perspective, and not getting into the minutia of numbers, because sometimes when you do that, they come with data immediately, or, you know, certain issues that come with that kind of data. But I think that, you know, if that's something that you guys want to kind of work towards, and maybe this policy map or this sort of needs assessment report that just auto generates can help you think about the info you want to have. And I know that like the county commission just started and then HCD was swamped, like deathly swamped with the CI grant. And so I think we're just getting the ground or the ball rolling and hitting the ground is sort of getting into that. How are we going to collect this data and do this? But the neighborly thing is more just us procuring software to make our lives easier. I don't think the city or the county's getting it yet either.
The other thing, if we could get a list of, and I know I've asked for this a few times, of projects in the pipeline for single family or townhouses or for sale condos, whatever is going on out there. I think that would be, that would help with, along with Jim's list.
Yeah, I don't have access to that data. I don't know where to.
Well, I know, but I think the planning departments for the county and the city should have those, right?
Yeah, is that if you mean permit data, Betty? Yeah, I think it would be more powerful if we could look at it along with the county's data.
Yeah.
Perspective. Yeah, I'm happy to share some of that. We publish it monthly, but we're working on creating a more searchable, kind of more interactive dashboard for those kind of things, but
yeah,
I can share that.
You know, that's the other thing I was going to talk about today. I just remembered I was on a webinar the other day, or with the Housing Coalition. I don't know if any of you attended. What was it? It was home down payment. I think it was down payment programs, was it, Marcos? Or it was a housing webinar where they talked about home ownership. And yeah, it was down payments because there was it was all Phoenix people that were on the call on this webinar, but there was people there from Tucson and they were asking, you know, well, where can we find this information about down payment programs in Tucson? So I went on the county and the city, and you guys, it's really hard to find information on either website. It's really bad. There's not one place to find this information. And, you know, people aren't going to go to individual places, you know, I mean, they're going to come to government first. You know, it's a city county program, and yet you have to dig for it. So I think right there, you know, we have to be better. We have to do better at doing the outreach for what is out there.
Okay,
then,
so just, sorry.
And I know that there's a roundtable, a home ownership roundtable coming up on the 31st, I believe. Marcos, I got an email today.
Yes. Yes, we've been working with the city and convening a housing council roundtable. So that's happening next week. We've got a couple of speakers from HUD coming down, one from the Phoenix office, and I think one from the field office in San Francisco. So looking forward to that. And we've got I believe all the HUD approved housing counseling agencies and maybe some of the other nonprofits that are involved in housing were invited. We reached out to the tribal communities, possibly Yaqui and Tohono haven't heard back from them yet. And then we've got some I'm not sure which bank, and a representative from TAR and their Housing Opportunities Committee is on the agenda as well. And so we'll be looking mainly to get feedback from a lot of the housing counselors that are, working, trying to approve home buyers. And, the ones that have been working with our program, especially, we want to get some feedback. We know the market's changed, and, we know there could be some changes. We've made changes in the past, and we're willing to consider them again moving forward. But, so yeah. And I think Ben has been working with Francis on our end, Ben Carpenter and Mary Leon at the city side.
It would be good to invite everyone on this commission or committee and the commission as well.
Yeah, I can see if I can forward that. Yeah, what's the proper way? Do I just send it to
Marcos,
chair?
you can send it to me and I'll to
Okay.
everybody so we don't get an accidental reply all.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're at 5:26, just in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, agenda item number 6 is the update on the IID. So Corin, actually, you've got the next two.
Yeah. I want to give a couple quick updates to the subcommittee. One is on the IID, which is just to say that the infill incentive district, which is the zone overlay that allows a lot of the mixed use and transit-oriented development in the downtown area, and actually a bit beyond downtown along the streetcar and on some of the main corridors near downtown, et cetera. That was extended by mayor and council in December. At their last meeting in December, they updated the IID and actually removed it. So now it's a permanent part of our zoning code. And some of the big changes to the IID were around housing. The entire infill incentive district can now be used for multifamily development. Previously, all the industrial areas still restricted residential, and there's actually of industrial area around Oracle, along I-10, et cetera, that could not be used for residential use, even using the infill incentive district. So now the infill incentive district can be used on those areas. And there's also an incentive for affordable housing that we established. Because this is a voluntary overlay, we can create zoning incentives for affordable housing. So there's a density bonus for any affordable housing using the IID. So that's the update.
Okay, and then the development code.
So the other code related update is that we are doing kind of a package, a code streamlining package of some tweaks to our zoning code. And there's a couple items that tie to housing that I wanted to mention to the commission. Some of them are kind of more procedural things, but one related to housing is that would make it easier to build townhouses too soon. Right now, there's kind of this restriction in our code that still requires setbacks, and there's really no way to build townhouses without going through some sort of special approval, either a rezoning or a flexible lot development. And that's really a type of housing that a lot of people want to see and be able to build. So we're removing the setback restriction for townhouses. We're also looking at the density requirements to make sure that's not a barrier either. So this is in R2 and higher, essentially. So it would not apply in R1, where multifamily is not currently permitted, but it would be allowed in any district or allows multifamily. So basically that already allows that building type. This would just allow it in a homeownership model, which is again something we want to encourage. So that's a proposal. That's one element of the proposed package. So the others that relate to housing are to reduce the amount of parking that's required for small multifamily development up to 5 units, to reduce it to 1 parking space per unit rather than by bedroom. Again, that's to make it easier to build smaller scale infill multifamily. And then there's also a proposal to change the MSNR setbacks, our major streets and routes setback, and make those more standard rather than variable setbacks, which has to kind of constrain the developable area on a lot of sites. So that would make it more predictable, also lead to better urban design. And that would apply to all commercial development, multifamily on corridors. So those are the main items that tie to housing. So wanted to mention that to this group. This is a proposal, actually going to Planning Commission for a study session tonight. We've asked them to set this for a public hearing on February 15th. I'll share the information in the chat on this. And if this does go to public hearing, you know, that's something that we welcome this group to submit any comments or feedback to the Planning Commission on these items.
Thank you, Corin. I was at the first public hearing. And I have to say, I was very surprised at some of the opposition. There was a couple of individuals there that had every reason in the book not to do anything and not to make any changes. So I think some of the ideas are really good ideas. So thank you for doing that. Marianne?
Jim, were they city staff or were they from the areas where the infill is?
I don't know who they were, actually. I don't know. I don't know if you heard about it, Corin.
Yeah, so it was a lot of neighborhoods. I would say probably the most the item that got the most concern, negative feedback, was the parking for small scale multifamily. And that was neighborhoods who are concerned about overflow parking and what that could mean. So that's something we actually see that as one of the more valuable items in this package in terms of the impact, because that's something we hear over and over. If you're trying to do just 4 units of multifamily infill, that's a lot of parking that's currently required. It could be 10 spaces. So we think that could have a pretty big impact, but there is a lot of concern about that one. So that's one place where I'd really encourage each of you as individuals or as a subcommittee to share your thoughts, support, or ideas on this, your feedback with the Planning Commission.
And really the reason that one in particular is important is because you can get more density. Instead of being able to build 2 or 3 units, you might be able to build 4 or 5. And so you're getting more with less. Shay?
I mean, yeah, I think this is a great start. I'm really happy to hear about this. The parking is a huge one. I mean, I just can't. But there's a lot of other things that are changing in the department. I feel like every time I go to plan review, I feel like the comb, the fine-tooth comb just keeps getting finer and finer as people are going through and reviewing drawing sets. I'm getting comments about unpermitted porches, and I'm just like, what is happening and so is planning the place to also talk about development services grievances and kind of how that is being handled? Because that's to me really where I feel that there's some disconnect sometimes, where the rubber meets the road of, we have these goals, but then how is it being enforced, you know? And I would love to speak and be, you know, and be in support of all these changes you're doing, because they're all great, but I want to see more. You know, I mean, there's so much more, you know, as well as this remote watering issue and the fact that the city is not using easements anymore. You know, that's more of a water department issue and has more to do with you know, utilities, but the implications are huge when you're trying to do a lot split or any kind of infill project where, you know, it's just tight. You just don't have the space. And then you're having to get a variance and, you know, get special exceptions. And it's just, yeah, I really feel like the infill is still, it's just so tough to do. It is so tough to meet all of the requirements.
Yeah, we know this is kind of a package of some lower hanging fruit. It's not a comprehensive code update or anything like that, but we hope this will lead to future code changes. So we wanted to take kind of a incremental approach by a few smaller pieces that we hoped would be more doable and feasible to get approved. But as mentioned, even these, especially the parking, we're definitely concerned. And to your point, Shay, about, planning and development needing to be more integrated, we definitely agree we aim to be really coordinated with the development review team. We are all one department, planning and development services. And yes, there can be some better communication. We always strive to communicate and have that more holistic approach, but that's something we'll definitely work on in terms of these code changes and making sure reviewers are aware of these changes if they are approved by mayor and council. And then I know there's other areas we can also improve the review process.
Okay, good stuff. Any other questions for Corin? Sarah?
I would just say that the ones that are related to housing, like this committee has been talking about what we can do to the code. And here are 2 things that can really do more for housing. And so if you all can add support to that, I think this is the forum where you go and say, I'm on this commission, or you can write emails to the commissioners for the planning commission, just this is your chance to really step up and say things to the full commission about these code changes. And also, Shay, to your point that you know of more and you hope that this continues to happen. I think your opportunity for that. So I just wanted to reiterate that real quick.
Just be prepared to be called a greedy developer who's just trying to gouge more people.
Yep.
That's what happened to me last time I spoke. All right.
I do have one final announcement, if I could,
Yeah.
which is that we are updating our general plan right now. We just launched the update to Plan Tucson last week. Big event, a community open house at TCC, had about 160 people there. So this plan is really important. We update it about every 10 years. And it's basically our growth plan and growth map for the city of where we want to develop in the future and how. Do we want more infill? Do we want more corridor development? What are our growth areas, our edge growth areas, and what type of development? More affordable housing, sustainable development patterns, etc. And how does that tie to all of our other goals around climate, economic development? Really a broad range of community topics. So encourage to get involved in Plan Tucson as well. We're going to have different topic-based working groups. So, and there will be a working group that's more focused on housing, other issues. And one thing that will be coming in the next month or two is that we are asking various city boards and commissions to designate a liaison and representative to the respective working group working on those issues. So we will be sending a communication to the full Commission on Equitable Housing and Development soon, and ask them to appoint someone to be involved in Plan Tucson. But the invitation is open to everyone to be part of those stations over the next 3 years. Our aim is to have this on the ballot for voter adoption in 2025. In Tucson, our general plan actually goes to approval.
Sounds good. Okay, agenda item number 8 is HCD updates. So Sarah.
Yeah, I just saw Shay put in the chat asking for when the planning commission meeting date is, and Warren did add a link with the development code update and the planning commission. So
the study session is actually in 20 minutes. And then we're asking that they set it for a public hearing February 15th. So if they do, the hearing will be February 15th. So we'll update you all at the next full commission on whether that hearing was scheduled.
Okay, and the study session isn't the place necessarily for public because it's just staff presenting to the commission and the commission providing feedback. So feel free to watch tonight or watch the recording later, but definitely keep an eye out for the public meeting, and that's where the public comment can be spoken at the public meeting, or you can written comment ahead of time as well. So I'll make sure that I fill you guys in. So once, I'll stay in touch with Corin and let you know when that is, just to give you guys a reminder. And then, yeah, as far as HCD updates go, well, so many things going on all the time. So trying to run as fast as we can. Like I said, the CNI grant was submitted at the beginning of the month. That was a very big task to get $50 from HUD for the Tucson house. So that is just something that we feel all very proud of. And so sorry if staff was a little out of it, but we're getting back on our feet. And yeah, just I'll keep you guys posted on any other future updates, but we've got the full commission meeting next week. So hope to see all your shining faces then. And the next scheduled meeting for this commission is supposed to be the 15th, but that's in the next steps sort of portion of the agenda. Would you like to do the 4th Wednesday of the month? Because I think there's been a few conflicts with the 3rd.
That would be really beneficial for me because I have another board meeting that's going to be the next 3 overlaps with this. It's a 3rd Wednesday.
Does anybody have any issues with it being the 4th Wednesday of the month? Okay, and I think the only. Go ahead.
February, there's planning commission, I'm sorry, mayor and council on the 4th Wednesday.
Okay.
But aren't they on Tuesdays?
No, they
It's-
sometimes on Wednesdays.
Because of the President's Day holiday, they're on a Wednesday, February 22nd.
What
That may not
about,
be a conflict for others.
well, we could move it up or back a day to the 14th to the 16th. Does that work?
The 16th might be better. I know I'm going to be out of town, but I could ask other staff to step in. We also do have an issue because I think the housing first committee is supposed to meet on the 4th Wednesday, but they're not meeting still, and they're having quorum issues. They lost their chair because Liz left. So how about this? I'll work with staff. We'll talk about it in our space meeting when Ann gets back. Ann's been out of town this week. And we'll just sort of reassess what we need to do scheduling wise for some of the meetings, and we'll be in touch. And if we need to, I know we just did the Pima County Commission, like send out, doodle polls and seeing like what days work best for people too. So we may have to come back and reassess, but we'll work on that to make sure we know. So I'll just say to be determined for our next affordable housing subcommittee, but we will all see you next week for commission meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, congratulations on getting that Choice Neighborhoods application. And I know that was extremely stressful for everybody over there. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was almost afraid to call anyone at one point.
Me too.
So, okay, any other questions for Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah. So let's see, I lost the agenda here. So next step, so we're gonna get a doodle poll or something for the next Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting. The next CEHD meeting is on the 2nd of February, which is next week. Any agenda items you guys want to see on our next meeting? Okay, well, hearing none, if you think of things, please send them to Sarah, Ernesto, or Shay or me, and we'll get them on. So without objection, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.